questions. By the agreement with the ranking member, I'm going to ask about 5 minutes of questions, and we will wrap this up unless I hear otherwise from the staff of some committee member. First, I have a series of questions which the Senate Foreign Relations Committee asks of literally every nominee. And I note, Ambassador Rosenblum, you made reference to having served under Senator Levin. Yes, he would be pleased to know that we continue to exercise a forceful oversight. So a simple yes or no from each of the 5 nominees would suffice. Do you agree to appear before this committee and make officials from your office available to the committee and designated staff when invited?
Yes.
Yes, Senator.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Do you commit to keep this committee fully and currently informed about the activities under your purview?
Yes.
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 Yes, Senator.
Yes.
Do you commit to engaging in meaningful consultation while policies are being developed, not just providing notification after the fact?
Yes.
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 Yes. And last, do you commit to promptly responding to requests for briefings and information as requested by this committee and its designated staff?
Yes.
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 Yes. Wonderful. Thank you all. Mr. Tolwar, I'll start with you. I had the opportunity to speak with the President on my way back from the floor vote. He wishes you all the best. And we reminisced about how I first met you when you were in service to the then Senator on literally this committee many years ago. I appreciate your raising the DFC. I am a great believer in its capabilities, in particular as an alternative pathway to development financing that allows for higher standards, labor standards, environmental standards, and transparency. How do you imagine the DFC being helpful in your future role if confirmed as U.S. Ambassador to Morocco?
Thanks so much for the question, Senator. And again, I do want to commend you and Senator Corker for having authored the bill that and the act that created the DFC. I think it's a powerful tool in terms of being able to promote development in a way that is consistent with our values. And the DFC actually is becoming more active in Morocco. There are about 3 projects which have been financed, valued at over $100 million in areas like climate resiliency and sustainable business environment. And there are about 10 more projects, actually more than 10, which are in the pipeline now. And those will be in areas such as healthcare and some others as well. I think this is just an incredibly powerful tool, and it's coming exactly at the right time in terms of this upping of our game. Because in my exchange with Senator Young, I mentioned how China is really beginning to do the same thing. And of course, you know, if you put the side by side, I think our approach and the DFC approach, free markets, transparency, environmental considerations, workers' rights, stands in sharp contrast to the Chinese approach of you know, non-transparency, state-centric, et cetera. So I think this will be a very powerful tool, and if confirmed, I will absolutely be working closely with the DFC, and I look forward to consulting with you on this as well.
Thank you. I look forward to that. I've visited Morocco several times, initially principally to advocate for the clementine exports from Morocco to the port of Wilmington, Delaware, but then later for a more expanded conversation about our security and values partnership. And I may return to ask about the Abraham Accords, but I need to, for now, keep moving, if I might. Mr. Henrik, talk to me about how you will work to promote liberalizing political and economic reforms, and whether you see room for an expanded partnership between the United States and Uzbekistan in foreign assistance.
Yes, Senator, absolutely. I do see room for us to continue to deepen that partnership. Uzbekistan is really at a critical juncture right now. The reform program that President Mirziyoyev instituted began 6 years ago, and some of the reforms have been incredibly successful. But I think they're now getting to the point where it's going to be more and more difficult to stay the course as you start to approach things like really strengthening civil society, you know, strengthening independent media, implementing rule of law. We have had, and under Ambassador Rosenblum's leadership, a lot of success in partnering with the government of Uzbekistan, using our assistance programs, particularly in the area of rule of law, to start to strengthen these reforms. And we're starting to see real results. If confirmed, Senator, I would certainly continue to use those tools as well as, if I may offer, I think the Development Finance Corporation also can play a critical role in Central Asia, where it doesn't have a large profile right now, but 3 of your nominees on this panel have been working over the last several years to try to work with the DFC to make it clear to other outside investors in the region that we too are prepared to offer our own investments, and investments that bring the kind of quality and represent our values and can be a real alternative to other countries in the region.
Thank you, Mr. Vigudi. I do think, excuse me, thank you, Dr. Hennick. I do think one of our key challenges, you're going to tell me how much time I have. One of our core challenges is giving the DFC the resources that it needs and deserves to be able to grow to scale. I'm trying to clear an annoying budgetary scoring rule that prevents them from fully utilizing equity, and to syndicate, to partner with other nations that are also open societies and want to promote more transparent, more sustainable alternatives to Chinese financing. I'd be interested, if I could, Mr. Vigudi, about how you would see our working to provide alternatives to Chinese financing in Kyrgyzstan, but also how do we support a resurgence of democratic governance?
Thank you for the question, sir. On the question of economic alternatives, I understand the U.S. Embassy has already been focused through assistance on the interesting development of a potential IT sector in Kyrgyzstan, which I think reflects, the growth of this reflects the fact it is a more open society than some of its neighbors. The embassy also has an English language program for professionals, which will also go far to promote this new sector. On the DFC itself, I understand that the embassy has been in contact with Kyrgyz officials. There, the challenge is to find internationally bankable projects that the DFC will be interested in and that the Kyrgyz make available. Obviously, it'll become a large focus for me if confirmed. On democracy itself, it has definitely been a unique aspect of Kyrgyzstan. We support it through assistance, through small grants. I think as an ambassador, one of my most important, if confirmed, my most important duties is to promote the expansion of rule of law and anti-corruption in Kyrgyzstan.
Thank you. If I might, Ambassador Rosenblum, just continue on that line. How do we use the tools, both support for civil society, advocating for democracy? How do we succeed in holding the Chinese accountable for the gross human rights violations happening in Xinjiang? And how would you advance our relationship with Kazakhstan? I was struck at their hesitancy, their refusal to publicly embrace and endorse Russia's aggression in Ukraine, Russia's annexation attempts, recognition of the so-called independent republics in the Donbass. How would you work to advance these core goals?
Senator, thank you for the question. It's an ongoing challenge for Kazakhstan to be where it is, to share these big borders and with China and Russia, and also to be so dependent on them for its trade, its oil exports. I think 80% of Kazakhstan's oil exports transit Russian territory, and the Russians have shown recently, just in recent months, the ability to sort of turn that tap off when they want to. And it sent a very strong message, recognized by President Tokayev of Kazakhstan, who's publicly said, we have to do something to diversify our oil exports and not to rely just on this pipeline. And there are ways that we can support them in these efforts to diversify, to build its relations outside of its Russia and China neighbors. DFC was already mentioned. I think that could also play a role in Kazakhstan as well. Promoting more U.S. investment coming in, encouraging U.S. companies to locate there. Sometimes it's difficult for U.S. companies to compete on price or on the financing terms they can offer. I found this in my service in Uzbekistan repeatedly. We have to make a case, working with the companies, that U.S. companies bring a value that others don't. It's a long-term value. and it pays off in the long term, both in the products they make and the investments they make in people. We've seen this repeatedly in Uzbekistan, and I expect the same would be true in Kazakhstan if I'm confirmed. You also mentioned the situation with the human rights abuses, the atrocities in Xinjiang, and Kazakhstan's position on that. I think it's important to emphasize that, again, Kazakhstan faces the reality of having this big, powerful neighbor that it depends on for so much. At the same time, there are 1.5 million Kazakhs living in Xinjiang, many of whom have also been victims of the repression there. And as a result, Kazakhstan, in my view, has done what it can to protect people, for example, who escape, who cross the border, and they've consistently followed a non-refoulement policy. They haven't sent people back. If I'm confirmed, I'll continue to press for that policy to continue, as well as to allow victims of Chinese repression in Kazakhstan to organize and speak out freely, to highlight the human rights abuses there. So it's not always an easy issue to deal with in the context of Kazakhstan, and yet I think we have a strong enough partnership that we can continue to promote accountability for the horrific human rights abuses in Xinjiang.
Well, if I might, for all three of you, I'm grateful for the skill and the study and the experience and the diligence you will bring to these three absolutely critical Central Asian republics. It is a part of the world that does not get the attention that it deserves here in the Congress, but that is critical to the future. They were at the crossroads of commerce for centuries. They are at the center of renewed focus and attention by China and Russia. And our ability to show what free and open societies can do and what democracy can bring. Forgive me, I'm getting a call from the floor. I look forward to hearing from you and supporting you in your service in these nations. Last, if I might, Mr. Hood, I remember well a visit to Tunisia around the time that the quartet received the Nobel Prize. It was exciting. There was a vibrancy to the democracy and civil society there. We met with a very wide range of leaders from parliament, from the judiciary, from the executive, and the striking backsliding, the transformation back to an authoritarian state in recent days is truly alarming. I'd be interested in how you think we can best strengthen civil society, how we can push back on Putin's misinformation. There is an active and successful disinformation campaign that is leading many on the continent to believe that it's American sanctions and actions, not Russia's aggression, that are causing skyrocketing food and fertilizer and fuel prices. So how do we counter Russian disinformation, strengthen civil society, and maintain true to our values while also maintaining this critical strategic relationship?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I think in a word, I would say engagement. I hope that we can welcome you back to Tunisia along with your colleagues, because I think it is critical and powerful when representatives of our legislative branch visit us at our embassies overseas and engage with our foreign interlocutors. I think that's all the more important in a place like Tunisia, where they have been going through political turbulence and where Tunisians are calling out for change. They're hungry, they're tired, they're unemployed. They want their country to have economic prosperity while also having the government protect their fundamental rights. And that's exactly what I'm going to try to help them to do if I'm confirmed, through our engagement, through our assistance programs, that we are shifting to focus more on amplifying the voices of civil society and institutions and organizations that can hold accountable executive power, no matter what the result of the referendum or the legislative elections that are projected for December. With regard to the misinformation, I think we still have a very powerful voice in the United States of America, and so I will use it. I will ask for help from the legislative branch and from other parts of Washington as well, but as well our group of 7 partners that the administration has been working with diligently for the past year to make clear what the world's democracies expect and hope to see in Tunisia, not just for the people, but also for the government.
Thank you. Let me make a closing comment, if I might. Every time I have the opportunity to visit one of our embassies overseas, I try to visit with mid-level career Foreign Service officers, civil servants, foreign nationals who work as part of our embassy teams, and ask for ideas and suggestions for ways that we could make the life of Foreign Service families in particular, but the lives of all who serve with us as development and diplomacy professionals easier. I do now chair the subcommittee of appropriations that funds the State Department and USAID. This committee will be considering an authorizing bill on August 3rd. And there are small but important things. One of the things currently being debated is providing access to the internet as a utility in a way that in countries where it is incredibly expensive to make it available without draining the household resources. Ways that we can have dual career families where they work for different agencies or work in the public sector and private sector more successfully transition from post to post. We talked in a hearing yesterday about the importance of having paid internships to promote diversity within the ranks of the Foreign Service. All of this interests me intensely, and I appreciate that several of you raised that as an ambassador, the safety and the security and the vibrancy of the many people who serve our nation at the posts for which you will, if confirmed, be responsible, encouraged me, because paying attention to the needs of those who dedicate their lives to representing us overseas is an important part, in my view, of your service and of mine. Let me close by thanking Sarosh and Dominique, Catherine, Sharon, and Anne for being here and for supporting your spouses and your families. And if I got this right, and I probably didn't, Harrison, Ilyas, Oscar, Carmen, and I think Fiona and Henry, William, George, and Clara. Many of you cited your parents as inspiration for your taking this step forward. Puneet talking about your parents taking the risk of coming to the United States. Parents who served in our military overseas, parents who are not able to witness this today, but who supported you, and then spouses and children who've been a part of your career of service. Thank you all for what you do to represent our nation in difficult, distant, dangerous parts of the world, and know that all of us in the Senate appreciate your service. The record for this hearing will remain open until tomorrow, the close of business on Thursday, July 28th. So for any